I'm Jake here with another video, this time featuring a non-German tank. But to me, the Firefly actually seems quite German in some ways, in that the whole idea of this being an individual tank is that its gun is superior to basically most other tier 6 mediums. Now the rest of the tank itself is mediocre at best, but the weapon, the 17 pounder, is extremely good. The 17 pounder of course has basically the highest base penetration of any tier 6 medium at 171. Also has very high premium pen, but the hull is basically the worst version of the Sherman, and the turret has basically no armor, so you need to play this thing as a long-range support vehicle. And even though a lot of people don't like it, the province map lends itself quite well to support vehicles, to where you can stay at range and bring in some extra firepower while using some of the hard cover or the concealment, as you see me doing in a very, very typical spot here. Now, I do not know what the enemy E25 is doing. The E25 should be in a support position itself, but hey, if they're going to throw away one of the best vehicles in this game, I'm not going to stop them from doing so. Now, the drawback to the 17 pounder over, say, something like the L70 that you find on a lot of the German vehicles that I'm so familiar with, is that it's a little sluggish on the aiming. And while it has very good accuracy on paper, it doesn't coincide to what you see in the game. As you see, most of the shots are kind of going wild. They're close to where I'm aiming, because I'm trying to aim for the drive sprocket, but they're going all over. So be aware if you get the Firefly that it will have that tendency. But the best thing about it is you do not need to rely on premium ammo, as I am keeping this poor T-29 just pinned in place and landing a couple of shots here and there where I'm aiming. But the rate of fire is more than good enough to perma-track people, as you're seeing in effect here. And finally, another shot goes through where I actually aimed. But Firefly is best suited to a situation like this. Hanging back, playing it basically like a turreted tank destroyer, which, despite people complaining about mediums hanging back and doing this, that is actually exactly how it was used in World War II. With a group of Shermans, they would have some with the 75, some that had been upgraded to the 76, and they would pair it up with normally one Firefly. And in practical usage, they would camouflage the later part of the barrel on the Firefly and keep it hanging back behind the other members of its squad, because Germans learned, after very few engagements, they learned that the Firefly was capable of punching through the front of not only, of course, the famous Tiger, but the Panther, which, ironically, the Panther actually had better frontal armor in the direct frontal plane because of its 80mm plate being angled back at an angle, compared to the 100 on the Tiger being pretty much a flat face. But Germans started to target the Fireflies, and Firefly crews started to paint a wavy pattern about halfway down the barrel, so it looked like the generic 75 from a distance. They'd paint a different color past the front, and they'd have a distinct light gray or white paint stripe right in the middle, and it'd make it look like it was cut off there. Just a little bit of trickery, because the Firefly started to be targeted, so they hung back even more so. Plus it had a lower rate of fire in real life, and again, it was a soft target itself, so any tank it faced could penetrate and kill it. And that is the case in the game here. You know, the armor is the weakest of all Sherman variants, but the gun is the best. It's actually a nice balancing feature. And it does not have very good gun depression, which is normally a hallmark of most American-based tanks, and the Shermans in particular. So, again, I think it's a very balanced Tier 6 medium, despite having such a good gun. It plays basically like a chunky Achilles, with a lot of extra hit points. Because otherwise, you might as well play the Achilles. But the Firefly does have a little extra armor for some HE resistance, and a good amount of HP. Now, in a situation like this, that's another very good Tier 6 medium, the Skoda. Now, he has a 3-shot autoloader. What I don't want to do is allow him to track me and then put 3 shots in, because that'll put me at a huge disadvantage. Now, I actually have the higher alpha and far superior penetration, so I just need to make him become a single-shot tank. And that's what I was doing there. But, of course, now my WC is pushed all the way down, and he's going to get focused because he's in a very, very vulnerable position now. So I decided to push up so that I can make this Type 64 back off, and maybe I can sneak some shots here and there into the enemies. As we see, I'm going to try to get shots into the Type 64, but of course I'm proximity detected, and there's a number of enemies up the hill to my left, as well as I also had to be careful and keep rocks here on my right hand side, because of course I am spotted, and if I'm the only one spotted, I'll have the same fate as the WZ there. So I have to be careful and trying to finish kills, and I know this VK is going to come straight for me, and there's the issue with the VK. He fired HE, my tracks absorbed most of it, so I got lucky there. The Sherman's armor is so thin, if he had not auto-aimed that, if he'd aimed it a little higher, he could have got a full penetration with his HE. That actually would have been a pretty consistent possibility. And that's something to keep in mind for any Sherman that you play. They have very weak side armor. So howitzers will do full damage if you hit the upper side of the hull. Just avoid the tracks. So that's why I kept trying to pivot to keep my front to him, because he shouldn't penetrate the front with HE, but he will pen the sides. Oh, and those 2 nice little additional armor plates. If you ever see a Sherman Firefly and you're facing it, shoot those. That is where the ammo rack is. Those 2 additional armor plates that they welded on, that was, in real life, that was to provide some extra protection, because of course the Firefly's 17-pounder ammo is big ammo, and they were trying to provide extra protection on that version of the Sherman hull. But here in the game, that's easy shoot me here signs, so do take advantage of that. If you're facing a Firefly, just shoot him right in those additional armor plates, and you have a pretty good chance of ammo racking him. Now, I don't want to get any return fire from that SU-100, because he was using the 122. And that's 390 average. I can out DPM him, but I don't want to risk one big hit to myself, because I already know these enemies are going to make a move. And it's the Type 64 that does first, which was a little crazy. I guess he just completely forgot I was there, or he was banking on his armor or his camo. Now this KV-1S, he's banking on armor that he doesn't have, because he's charging me and he's 2-shottable. He has very high DPM, but he didn't have the health left in order to survive 2 shots from me. So now with these cleared, the best thing I can do is to go help my SU teammate, and I'm hoping to get up here. But again, this is another thing that helps keep the Firefly being balanced. It's sluggish. It's basically, along with the Jumbo, some of the slowest of the Sherman variants. But as you can see now, we had basically broken what was a stalemate and turned this into, now we need to chase down the last two remaining vehicles. I'm getting spotted, and it could be either. It could be either the Cromwell B or the SU-100. SU-100 actually fixes one of the biggest detriments of the SU-85. The SU-100 has good view range for a Russian tank destroyer. The SU-85 is blind as can be. But the SU-100 has pretty good view range. And I'm seeing a teammate take hits. And I'm knowing that the Oni was getting hit after the Cromwell B was dead, so it has to be, of course, the SU-100. And it looked like he must have been either firing HE at him, or maybe I was mistaken in the early. Looks like he does have the 100. But either way, finished out that, it makes it a win. And we'll go on to the results here. Turns out, of course, that the T-28 concept on my team actually did a lot of work over there on the opposing ridgeline. But I got an ace out of it with the Top Gun and the Vaslahos medal. And there's, of course, the Top Gun. But going on to the team score here in a second, it was basically between me and the T-28 concept. I cleared one ridge and supported the mid. He cleared the other. And between the two of us, turned out to make that into a win. With a little bit of help from the rest of the team. But I hope you enjoyed this as a little change of pace from my normal German tank content with the Firefly, one of my favorite oddball tanks here in World of Tanks. But I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.